and I just started throwing bombs on him. I got a clean elbow in, and I could hear, stop the fight, stop the fight. So I just kept on throwing, and I didn't care. I wanted to finish him because I was willing to die, so I was also willing to kill.
To put it simply, 2019 has been a fantastic year for MMA fans. And with the UFC now holding events on what seems to be a weekly basis, we've certainly been spoiled with hundreds of incredible fights during the past 12 months. And as the year comes to a close, we thought it'd be a good time to reflect on some of the most entertaining and memorable performances of 2019. As always, if you guys enjoy this video, then please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Now, without further ado, and ranked in no particular order, let's take a look at 10 of the best fights of 2019. Number 10. Darren Till vs Jorge Masvidal. There's no denying that Jorge Masvidal has had quite a remarkable year, scoring sensational victories over the likes of Nate Diaz and of course Ben Askren. But the fight that really kicked things off for Masvidal came against Darren Till earlier this year. This was an important fight for both fighters, given the fact that they were both coming off a loss and were eager to bounce back strong. What resulted was an entertaining stand-up battle between two of the best strikers in the division, and as soon as it began, both men came right out of the gate, with Till dropping Masvidal just a few seconds into the fight. Luckily for Masvidal, he managed to survive, but Till would continuously hunt him down, with Masvidal relying on his counter-striking. The competitive back-and-forth fight continued all the way up until round 2, before Masvidal found a home for his left hand, which sent Till falling down completely unconscious. The knockout win marked a turning point in Masvidal's career, and he carried that momentum all the way through 2019. Number 9. Tony Ferguson vs Donald Cerrone. UFC 238 saw an incredible lightweight matchup between fan favourites Tony Ferguson and Donald Cerrone, in a fight that would determine the next contender for the lightweight title. Given that Tony Ferguson and Donald Cerrone are well known for putting on exciting fights, fans went into this one with high expectations, and as advertised, the fight was very entertaining, or at least for as long as it lasted. Overall, this was a high-paced and high-volume fight. While Tony Ferguson marched forward, using his unorthodox striking to pick Cowboy apart, Cerrone continued to return fire, which resulted in quite a few wild flurries between the pair. Even though Tony appeared to be wearing Cerrone down, Cerrone never let up for an instant and continued to walk through the fire. Unfortunately, in between round 2 and 3, Cerrone blew through his broken nose, which caused his eye to swell up and shut. This was ultimately the deciding factor in ending the fight, granting Tony the win by TKO due to a doctor's stoppage. Although a somewhat unfortunate ending, it was no doubt a fun back and forth brawl for as long as it lasted. Number 8. Vicente Luque vs Bryan Barberena. Vicente Luque and Bryan Barberena is one of the fights that many MMA fans may have missed. But if you did have the pleasure of watching it, then you'll know they both delivered a fight for the ages. For roughly 15 minutes, the two of them went to war, with Barberena badly hurting Luque in round 1, only for Luque to survive and even nearly finish Barberena by submission. But Barberena somehow survived and found momentum in round 2, bringing the fight to Luque with his dirty boxing. Going into the third round, the two appeared to be tied, before Luque turned up the heat in the last minute and scored an impressive TKO with just 6 seconds left in the final round. This was no doubt a Fight of the Year contender, and a real treat for those who were fortunate enough to see it. Number 7. Jeremy Stephens vs Yair Rodriguez 2. Jeremy Stephens and Yair Rodriguez had an extremely unfortunate ending to their first fight in September, after the match was called off just 15 seconds in due to an eye poke. Luckily, the two were able to run it back just 1 month later at UFC on ESPN 6. And the fight definitely delivered. Rodriguez opened up with his dynamic striking, while Stephens hunted him down looking for a knockout. As Rodriguez fired off, he managed to hurt Stephens in round 2 with a vicious body shot, and then proceeded to swarm him looking for the finish. But somehow Stephens survived and pressed on. While rounds 1 and 2 may have belonged to Rodriguez, round 3 was all Stephens, taking Rodriguez down and smashing him with brutal ground and pound. When it was all said and done, Rodriguez walked away with a well-earned unanimous decision in what proved to be a stellar fight from both men. Looking back, the only real shame is that we didn't get to see 2 more rounds. Number 6. Donald Cerrone vs Alex Hernandez. Donald Cerrone vs Alex Hernandez was a fight with quite a bit of tension during the build-up. In the run-up to the fight, Alex Hernandez had taken every opportunity available to disrespect Cerrone, which Cowboy was less than happy about. Unfortunately for Hernandez, he had bitten off far more than he could chew. UFC vet Donald Cerrone put on an absolute clinic on Alex Hernandez, outclassing him in virtually every area of the fight. And while Hernandez came out explosive and relied on his athleticism, Cerrone kept his composure and continued to find a home for his knees and his trademark high kicks. Hernandez survived for as long as he could, but it was clear he was quickly beginning to fade. Another head kick in round 2 sealed his fate, and Cerrone followed up with punches to earn a satisfying TKO victory. In the end, it seemed like the experience gap made the difference in this fight. Was it one-sided? Pretty much. Was it still fun and entertaining? Absolutely. Number 5. Henry Cejudo vs Marlon Moraes. After TJ Dillashaw tested positive for EPO and relinquished his bantamweight title, flyweight champion Henry Cejudo decided to move up to the bantamweight division and challenge Marlon Moraes for the vacant belt. This was a big test for Cejudo, given the fact that Marlon had destroyed virtually everyone in his path. But Cejudo rose to the occasion and passed with flying colours. After a difficult first round absorbing some brutal kicks, Cejudo adjusted well and brought the heat right back to Marlon. As the fight progressed, Cejudo really put the pressure on, tying up in the clinch and landing some hard knees. The damage from Cejudo continued to pile up, and Marlon eventually went into survival mode. Cejudo continued to overwhelm him in round 3, landing heavy hammer fists from the top position before the fight was called off in his favour. Cejudo made history that night by becoming one of the few 2-division champions in promotional history, and it was all the more impressive when you consider the adversity that he battled through to accomplish it. Number 4. Yoel Romero vs Paulo Costa. Under different circumstances, Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa could have easily been a championship fight. But with or without a belt on the line, this was a fight that included 2 of the most talented contenders in the middleweight division. And for us fans, this fight was a real treat. Both Costa and Romero dropped each other in a wild first round, putting their heavy power on display as they tagged each other with their hardest shots. While Costa let loose with some vicious combinations early on, Romero waited for his openings and returned fire with heavy hands. The 2 knockout specialists went to war for 3 rounds, showing both their devastating power as well as their remarkable chins. And even though the fight didn't end in a knockout, it certainly wasn't due to a lack of trying. In the end, Paulo Costa was awarded a close and quite frankly somewhat controversial decision. But however you scored it, it was undoubtedly an incredible fight and produced a lot of fireworks. Number 3. Dustin Poirier vs Max Holloway 2. While lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov sat on the sidelines for the first half of 2019 due to suspension, an interim title fight was created between Dustin Poirier and featherweight champion Max Holloway. What made the fight interesting was the fact that Poirier had defeated Max by armbar several years prior, but both fighters had drastically evolved since then, and both were eager to show it. The first 2 rounds clearly belonged to Dustin, as he battered Max Holloway with his superior power and bloodied up the Hawaiian native. By rounds 3 and 4, Max really began to pick up steam, and even put Poirier in some bad trouble after he landed a massive barrage of strikes. By the 5th round, it really was anyone's fight, but Poirier refused to let this opportunity slip away, as he edged out Max in the final 5 minutes to earn a unanimous decision and win the interim title. Both Max and Dustin had clearly given their all, and as Dustin himself said, the win was paid in full. Number 2. Colby Covington vs Kamaru Usman. What made the fight between Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman so interesting was not only their animosity, but the fact that they were so evenly matched on paper. Both shared the same records, had similar stats, defeated similar opponents, and even had the exact same fighting style. All in all, it was a dream matchup between 2 of the best welterweights on the planet, and the fight turned out to be very close up until the finish. Ultimately, the fight turned out to be a war of attrition. During the fight, rather than resort to wrestling like they normally did, both Colby and Kamaru kept the fight standing for all 25 minutes, constantly trading shots as they attempted to wear each other down. One shot in particular actually broke Covington's jaw in round 3, which he somehow fought through. The fight was so close that the judges had it tied going into the 5th, but it all came to an end during the last minute of round 5, when Kamaru dropped Colby twice before the ref jumped in turn awarding Kamaru a satisfying knockout victory. Whoever you're rooting for, it's undeniable that both men showed a lot of heart and toughness in their 5-round war. Number 1. Israel Adesanya vs Kelvin Gastelum. While it's true that this list isn't ranked in any particular order, I think it's safe to say that Israel Adesanya vs Kelvin Gastelum is viewed upon by most as the best fight of 2019, and for good reason. After Whittaker had been sidelined in early February due to a health issue, an interim title fight was created between UFC vet Kelvin Gastelum and rising star Israel Adesanya, with the winner expected to meet Whittaker later this year. And the fight exceeded all expectations. Both men had their shining moments, with Kelvin bringing the fight to Israel early on and busting him up with some heavy shots. It was the first time that Israel had faced any adversity in his UFC career, but Adesanya adjusted well, using his size and reach to outstrike Kelvin as the fight carried on. The 5th round is where Israel really shined, dropping Kelvin multiple times before the fight had finished. In the end, it was clear both men had pushed one another to their absolute limits, and had left each other bloodied and battered. But the impressive 5th round secured Israel the win, as well as the interim title. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Apart from that, thanks so much for watching guys, and we'll see you on the next video.
Never have a doubt, do you like me now? Am I good enough now? Should I get more loud till you hear the fucking sound? Oh no, I'm losing my shit again, having to fit again. Man, I'm forgetting when I used to have some friends. I used to play pretend, we all grow up and then hating my phone and trends. I'm about to blow my head, nobody knows I'm dead. Fear I'm a ghost instead, think that I'm close, I get straight comatose in bed. Try to go slow with breath, without my nose and head. Heart doesn't go the trend, faster it goes.